Hello, everybody. This is Coach Malcolm here. This is going to be, I believe, my third or fourth installment, my third or fourth look at the Giuoco piano opening. And today, what I have for us, is a game that I played myself, where I played the Giuoco, but it is all the way from January 26th, 2014. I was playing white. And it was a 30-minute time-controlled game. I was on board 34. I've got the notation here. I've put it into the database already. It's an interesting game. At the time, I think I was probably rated, I'm not exactly sure, but I think I was probably rated somewhere from the 1500 to 1700 range. So I'm going to make a few mistakes throughout the game. My opponent is going to make a few mistakes as well. We're going to look at those, but we're mostly just looking at the structure here for the Giuoco and how it really helped me get an attack and win the game. So yeah, let's get into this game. This game is pretty interesting. So I was playing white, obviously. I played e4, e5, knight f3, and if you haven't seen the other videos I've posted on the Giuoco, it was maybe a little while back, a week or two ago. Check those out, or you can keep watching this video, but I'm going to talk about a lot of those ideas. So bishop c4, right? This is our classic structure. Knight f6, they're attacking our e4 square, so obviously we're going to guard it with d3. Now, oftentimes players, instead of playing bishop c5, which we respond with c3, will play bishop a7 here. And at the time, I decided, let me keep this the same, because bishop a7 is sort of it's a less active move, but it's more protecting the king. It's just a different strategy that black often plays in this setup. I decided to keep with my c3, right? I wanted to keep control of this d4 square, which I think is a fine approach. My opponent castled. I castled as well. d6. Now I see sort of a bishop e6 coming. I'm going to retreat my bishop, make sure it's safe. I really want this bishop for the attack. Bishop g4, we test the bishop, we kick it. Bishop h5, and now we are going to start our plan of knight d2, rook e1, knight f1, and knight g3 to bring both knights over here, attack this bishop, launch an attack, particularly with this f5 square, which is exactly what happened. So, knight d2, rook b8, a kind of peculiar move. My opponent does this sort of weird strategy of pushing the b pawn this game. It's not very successful. b5, knight f1, right? So now we have done our entire strategy. We moved the rook over, and we've gotten our knight over to this g3 square. The bishop is being attacked. Bishop back, knight h4, pawn d5. So here, pawn d5. In one of my other videos, we talked about how oftentimes before black has castled, pawn d5 is a mistake. After they've castled, not so much. Here I played queen e2, which I discussed as well. You just guard that e4 pawn. You don't want to trade queens. Your queen is going to be useful in the attack against the black king. So you're just going to leave that queen e2. You guard it. For sure, we have, if we count it up, a ton of defenders. They have 4 attackers, but we have 4 defenders, so we are perfectly fine. If they capture like they did, you just take back with your pawn, and now you've got an open file. Keep that in mind. We're going to be coming back to that very, very soon. All right, so this knight checks on back to e8, and now, if you remember my other video, we said when this pawn is on h6, well, first of all, if this pawn was on h6, this bishop would just be hanging because of this awesome pin that we have right here. So not the case. And I said that if we have h6, let's just say, this bishop is on h7 for whatever reason. What we do is when this bishop is on h7, they've got pawn h6, we move our g knight in. And then we're going to play like queen f3 over to g3. But I also said when the pawn is on h7, guarding this bishop, we're not just going to trade off here. We don't want to do that. We want these 2 knights for our attack. What we do instead is we move this knight over and we plan an h4, h5 push with, probably a queen f3 in there as well. Didn't happen exactly that way because my opponent decided to trade, which of course is an option. So I took back with the knight, of course. I've got a strong central pawn. Sorry, these arrows are a bit wacky at some points. There's no reason to take with the pawn, especially this knight is going to be in your way. You kind of want your queen to get to g3 as well to cause problems on g7. Of course, we're going to take back with the knight. Here I played queen f3. Now I'm activating this queen a little more. It is kind of annoying. I had to go queen e2 and then queen f3. That's kind of how it goes sometimes because I had to guard that e4 pawn from the d5 push. All right. So bishop c5, I played queen to g3. Now I'm threatening g7 mate. So if my opponent does nothing, right, queen takes g7 is just going to be quick and easy checkmate. So here my opponent guarded that. They played knight h5, and I played queen to g4. So just attacking the knight. You know, if they do nothing, then their knight is just hanging. And this knight is guarding g7. So if the knight decides to move back yet again, we're going to have checkmate on g7, which would be great for us. But my opponent, you know, wasn't going to fall for that. They played g6. I'm not worried about them taking my knight because I have this pin right here, so it's not a problem. But I cannot take their h5 knight, obviously, because my queen is the one giving the pin. If she moves out of the way, it's just completely over. I've lost my queen. So g6. In this position, I played knight h6. I want to go back a second, I believe, right here. Sorry, I missed over this for a second. Instead of queen g3, I had a pretty interesting move with this bishop on c1. So see if you can take a second or two, pause your videos if you need to. How can I launch an attack that I missed in my game when I was playing in 2014 with this bishop on c1? Alright, the correct answer is bishop to h6. Now, bishop h6 looks like a super crazy move, right? Obviously, we're attacking g7 with two pieces. It's only guarded by the king. It's the pawn right in front of the king, so it's a key pawn. And you might be thinking, Coach Malcolm, what if they just take back? Well, the answer is now they are in a ton of trouble. Queen g3, they've opened up this g file. If they go king h8, we just have checkmate on g7. If they block with their knight, we're going to take queen g5. How can we win the queen here for white? We play knight takes h6, and this is just all types of trouble for black. This game is going to be over soon. They're in check. They can't even take the knight because, again, we have a g-file pin against this king. So, bishop h6, great idea. I did miss it in this position. Obviously, they don't have to take back. If they don't take back, I'm just taking on g7, probably going queen g3, and black is just in all sorts of trouble in that way as well. So I missed that, but it's an important idea. It's not going to always work for sure, but it's cool tactical play that you often see in the Giuoco ideas similar to that. All right, anyways, we have got queen g3. Where's our main line? Knight h5. Sorry about that. Knight h5, and our opponents play knight h5, sorry. Then we have queen g4. They're going to guard with g6 like we talked about. And here I played knight h6 to, put a little pressure on this king. King g7. And here I played bishop to g5. And after pawn f6, here the best move is bishop to h1. And we'll explain in a second. What I played was rook d1, trying to get some tempo on the queen. And the problem with this variation, we'll see if you can see it. It's pretty tricky here. You may need to pause for a minute. But why can black equalize the position here? Black can make it so that they are perfectly okay. They're not under all this pressure that they're experiencing from my pieces. All right, the answer is no. My opponent played bishop d6. My opponent can here take on g5, and you might be thinking this is crazy. You lose your queen, but white is going to run into all sorts of trouble with this bishop f2. And I believe, if we turned on the engine here, okay, so it says it's pretty equal. So yeah, black had the chance to equalize. They missed that, so that was my mistake. I should have played back to c1. I've allowed this, so I've baited this pawn out almost, and now we will be able to cause more problems. My opponent missed that. Now I played back to c1, and yet again, I am winning this position. My opponent went back, rook e7. I played c4 here with the threat of c5, trying to take advantage of this pin. My opponent didn't fall for it. They played c5, but c4 is still the best move in that position, I believe. I played rook d3 here, trying to, again, pile on this pin. So even though I have my attack, I'm going to take a second, cause some more problems for my opponent. Rook b7 is not a great move. They wasted a move. They have to move their rook yet again. I've got two attackers on this bishop, but they do have two defenders. But here I played knight f5. This is just trouble for black. Our bishop is cut off now, so this king could go to f7 if he liked. He would run into problems like knight h6. The king is just in a lot of trouble here. So, we can play it out if we would like. If this king goes back to h8, the point is the knight is attacking d6. So knight f5 is a fork, if you would like to say. It can be taken, but is a fork attacking d6. They're going to lose material there. So my opponent tried to simplify with knight takes f5, but after pawn takes f5, black is still in trouble, right? There's a lot of pressure on this g6 square. This bishop is still pinned. They're just in a tough spot. Queen d7, and now how can we... it's hard to sort of describe this move. We can win some material here with not, the most forcing move you've ever seen, but we can add pressure on black's king. We can make it so that this knight is hanging as well, and this bishop will be hanging. It's a little bit of a vague description, but I don't want to give it away. So take a second, see if you can just, we can just try and find the best move for white here. Alright, I played pawn takes g6. Now this knight is hanging. This queen is hanging. We still have pressure on d6. Just too many problems for black to solve. For example, if they take back here, the queen on d7 hangs. If they, kind of ignore this and they guard their queen, the knight on h5 hangs, and then I'm threatening queen h7, mate. So here my opponent took on g4. Now I've got a nice little double attack, attacking two pieces. This only has one defender now, and black is in trouble. Rook takes d6. I'm not sure. My notation ends here. I'm not sure if my opponent resigned or if we just decided, or if, I got low on time. But I know I have the result 1-0. I ended up winning this game because I'm up two pieces. So it was kind of, there was a lot going on in this game, of course. And obviously I didn't play it the best I could have. I missed this bishop h6. Super cool attack in this position. But I think the point is, when you play the Giuoco, you get a ton of pieces attacking this king. Your opponent is more cramped up. They don't know what to do. They end up playing moves like this bishop d6 later on that ended up being a whole world of trouble for them on the open file. So what's my point? Is this the most ideal Giuoco game you could play? No. I made mistakes. It wasn't the greatest attack I could have come up with. But is it sort of an example of how the Giuoco and this knight g3, knight f3, especially with the knight h4 to f5 combo, can be super strong and just have a lot of good attacking ideas within it? Absolutely. So I wanted to show this game as an example. Hope you guys learned from it. Hope you guys are trying out the Giuoco in your games, and I'll see you all next time.